Welcome. I'm Doug Morgan, and you're listening to Uncommon Sense, where we hunt for the truth in the topics you're not supposed to talk about, Christianity and politics. I saw this post the other day, and I really wanted to go through it because it really takes us into the mind of a leftist liberal. It originally came from a Facebook page of Brandon Weber, but I don't think he actually wrote it. The page itself says that he has passed away in 2020 and that the page is, quote, carrying the legacy of Brandon Weber. So somebody is writing for him now. The only thing that it says about him is that he was a labor union historian, an educator, and a change catalyst. Well, anytime that you see the words change catalyst, you know it really is describing a liberal. But it's let's get into the post that I found so interesting. I want to read it once all together and then I'll break it down. So it says, conservatives, your anger is valid, but it's being hijacked. You're not losing your country because of woke liberals. You're losing it because the powerful need someone to blame, and they picked them, in quotes, instead of themselves. Here's how they fooled you. Number one, you feel like you're being left behind, and you're not wrong. Wages suck. Everything costs more. Your job feels disposable. The world moves fast and doesn't care how hard you work. That's real. But the people who caused it aren't drag queens or gender studies majors. They gave you a villain, woke, in quotes. They turned your real pain into a culture war. Instead of fixing anything, they convinced you the problem is pronouns, trans kids, college students, diversity. Why? Because outrage is easier to sell, and it points the finger away from them. Number three, you're angry at liberals because they look like the elite. They have degrees. They read the news. They live in cities. But those aren't the people outsourcing your jobs, jacking up housing prices, and lobbying to keep your wages low. The real elite are laughing at all of us. Number four, you've been taught to hate what you don't understand. Not because you're dumb, because fear is easy to sell. Fear of immigrants, of queer people, of ideas you've never encountered. And every time you get mad at, quote, them, unquote, you're doing exactly what they want. And it's easy to throw hate at those you encounter in your community than billionaires you've never met. Number five, woke, in quotes, isn't ruining your life. Billionaires are. They're stripping your benefits, privatizing healthcare, making record profits while you fight each other online about bathrooms. And while you're arguing about flags or books, they're buying your neighborhood. Number six, you're not conservative anymore, you're reactive. You've been trained to respond to every issue with rage, sarcasm, or mockery. Ask yourself, when was the last time you felt hopeful about a policy, a leader, or the future? Because they don't want you hopeful. They want you mad. Number seven, the truth is you've been lied to, not by your neighbors, not by the woke mob, in quotes, but the people who need your vote, your loyalty, and your outrage to stay rich and powerful while your life stays hard. Number eight, you deserve better. You deserve health care. You deserve a living wage. You deserve to retire without fear. You deserve truth, not distraction. But to get that, you have to stop fighting the people who aren't your enemy. They told you the culture war was about values. It's not. It's about control. The more distracted you are, the less you've noticed You notice who's robbing you. And right now, you're willing to hand them the keys to your poverty and cheering any libertard while you do it. So that's the post, okay? And I know some of you are just jumping up and down going, oh, I can't believe this. Anyway, others are going, yeah, this is exactly right. So let's break this down, okay? First of all, he starts out by saying, conservatives, your anger is valid, but it's being hijacked. So the post is addressed to conservative, and it's trying to convince us of something. As you will see, it makes some huge false assumptions and straw man arguments. It also starts out here with a disarming mechanism. It throws the reader a bone and tries to convince us that he is a very responsible person that can see both sides. He says, quote, your anger is valid. So now I'm supposed to listen and agree with him because he is not on the extreme side of the issue. But then he uses the word that invalidates everything that he just said. The word is but. He says, conservatives, your anger is valid, but it's being hijacked. So it's okay to be angry, but I am still in the wrong because someone or something is manipulating me in my anger. And then he says, you're not losing your country because of, quote, woke liberals, unquote. Well, I disagree with him here, of course. I mean, under liberal leadership, many things have deteriorated. Under woke liberal leadership, taxes and regulations have made it hard for lower income individuals just to get by. They find it hard to buy a house or save for their children's education or really save at all. Under woke liberal leadership, women's sports is being destroyed by them allowing men to compete as women. Under woke liberal leadership, the world is a less safe place as they believe in negotiating everything in foreign policy instead of a peace through strength strategy. Under woke liberal leadership, our judicial system is in shambles as the wants and will of the criminal is paramount instead of justice for the victim. Under woke liberal leadership, our rights under the Constitution are being eroded away. I mean, I could go on and on and on with more, but let's just leave it there for now, okay? He says, you're losing it because the powerful need someone to blame, and they picked them instead of themselves. So let me get this straight. According to him, we are losing our country, but not because of liberalism. It's because of, quote, the powerful, unquote. And the fact that they have tricked us into blaming liberals instead of the powerful. Who are the powerful, you might ask? This is starting to sound a little like a conspiracy theory, if you ask me. But let's read on to find out if he ever defines who they are. He says, here's how they fooled you. Number one, you feel like you're being left behind, and you're not wrong. This is kind of a backhanded, disarming statement. I mean, we as conservatives are being left behind, but not by liberals. Really? Okay. He says wages suck. Everything costs more. Your job feels disposable. The world moves fast and doesn't care how hard you work. And that's real. Well, first of all, wages suck? I mean, this is news to me because, hey, President Joe Biden just told us less than 2 years ago that because of Bidenomics, wages were up. Yeah, we were to celebrate that. All fast food restaurant employees in the state of California must be paid at least $20 an hour right now. Minimum wage in California, in fact, to do anything anything, to hire anyone, and it has to be at least $16.50 an hour. That's minimum wage there. And yes, things cost more because of, well, you guessed it, inflation. Inflation that was caused by the woke liberal president Biden. On day one of his presidency, he signed executive orders that drove the price of oil sky high, because everything takes oil to produce or to be transported, or both. For this and many other reasons, the average inflation rate for the last 4 years under Biden was almost 5%. That was the average. This was the highest inflation rate for a president since, well, Democratic President Jimmy Carter, who saw almost 10% inflation rate over his 4 years. And yes, jobs do feel disposable, because they are. I mean, if I hire somebody to do a job for me, is it my responsibility to make sure that they work for me for the rest of their life? A job is a contract between two individuals or organizations, and it should be a win-win for both parties. That's what it should be. The only jobs that seem to go on forever are union jobs and or government jobs. And if they're both, then they're really entrenched. The temperature of these kind of jobs, though, to go on for no reason has really, I think, come to an end. And as for the world not caring how hard you work, well, this is a result of woke liberal-led DEI. I mean, woke liberals preach that it doesn't matter how hard you work. In fact, if you have a work ethic, it's because you're a racist. The only thing that matters when it comes to your job is your skin color, your gender, or who you like to have sex with. So he goes on here and he says, but the people who caused it aren't drag queens or gender studies majors. Okay. This is such a misdirection when it comes to this discussion. I challenge you to show us anyone that is saying that drag queens and gender studies majors are making wages suck and making everything cost more and making your job feel disposable, or making merit not count. No one's saying that. It's just a big straw man. So number 2, he says, they gave you a villain, woke. Well, this is the nefarious they again, I think, what we're seeing here. These powerful they gave us conservatives a villain. They gave us something to blame. They said that we should blame the woke without a stitch of evidence, without a stitch of reason. We bought into this lie, hook, line, and sinker. No, no. We looked at the woke liberal leaders and what they have done, and they and place blame where blame is due. The only way you can say otherwise is if you consider Obama, Biden, Pelosi, Schumer, and other woke liberal leaders as part of the powerful who are the villains here, right? And he says they turned your real pain into a culture war. Okay, this is rich. To say that they, the powerful, started a culture war is ridiculous. It is the woke liberal leaders that think that critical race theory is unifying. Barack Obama was elected with the idea that race relations would get better. And quite the opposite happened. Culture wars have flared up everywhere because when you have an oppressor versus oppressed mindset, there will always be a culture war. He says instead of fixing anything, like it is the powerful's job to fix things, they convinced you the problem is, and he lists a couple things here, pronouns. So let's stop. Let's talk about pronouns. Pronouns are a problem. those that get offended when I don't use the pronoun for them that they have chosen for themselves this hour, these people are a part of the problem. And if you want to be called a one-eyed, one-horned, flying purple people eater, I could not care less. Just don't get offended when I call you a man or a woman, because that's what you are. He says trans kids. And first of all, there is no such thing as a trans kid. Kids are not thinking about who they want to have sex with, or at least they shouldn't be anyway. And second, God does not make mistakes. He made you either a boy or a girl, period. He says college students. Well, college students are not a problem either, though they are very easily influenced, especially by woke liberal professors who think they are changing the world by brainwashing your kids. Oh, and by the way, if they are willing to pay some college or university hundreds of thousands of dollars to get brainwashed, then that's on them. Don't make me pay for their bad choices. And he says diversity. Well, diversity sounds all good and all, right? But it is just another word hijacked by the woke liberals. Diversity to them means equality of outcome, not equality of opportunity. So everyone should have equality of opportunity, but just because your numbers don't line up like you think they should doesn't mean that there is racism. And then he says, why? Because outrage is easier to sell, and it points the finger away from them. Again, I don't think that anyone is listening to the powerful and just drinking the Kool-Aid. In fact, I don't see a lot of conservatives in outrage, as he puts it. I see a lot of concern for the direction of the country, and where it's headed. I see a lot of concern when trusted institutions implode and throw away any credibility they have left for the sake of being progressive. But those that I see with anger and with outrage, it's the woke liberal. Trump derangement syndrome is a very real thing. The one thing that is constant when it comes to the woke liberal is that their anger and their outrage is always there. So number 3, you're angry at liberals because they look like the elite. They have degrees. They read the news. They live in cities. Okay. The assertion here is that liberals are not elite, right? I mean, he basically says that. If you're a liberal, you can't be elite. By elite, the liberal definition is a powerful, rich person, usually conservative. Well, the dictionary definition is a noun, and it says a select group that is superior in terms of ability or qualities to the rest of a group or society. Well, if this is really a good definition, then he may be right when he says that liberals can't be elite, right? Okay, I'm just kidding, But what he says next here is somewhat insightful, and I want you to listen to this. He says that woke liberals have degrees. They read the news. They live in cities. He is insinuating by this that liberals are educated and informed and connected, and conservatives, conversely, are dumb and uninformed and loners. This theory here is that since we conservatives want to be like liberals, smart, informed, connected, we are angry at liberals in our envy. I mean, that's what he's asserting here. There's no two ways around it. He truly believes this, and it is a real insight into how the liberal thinks, especially about how they compare to conservatives. They think of themselves very much superior to those Neanderthals that only want to go back to the past when the white Christian male ruled the world. And then he says, but those aren't the people outsourcing your jobs, jacking up housing prices, and lobbying to keep your wages low. But in reality, the woke liberal is responsible for this. And he says the real elite are laughing at all of us. Well, even if this was true, who cares? I mean, really, who cares? Even if that was true, who cares? That is part of what is wrong with the woke liberal. They are too concerned about what others are doing and not paying enough attention to what their own policies are doing to this country and others around the world. Okay, let's move on to number 4. He says, you've been taught to hate what you don't understand, not because you're dumb. Of course, that's not what you asserted earlier, but let's move on. Because fear is easy to sell. Okay, let's stop. This part is so far off base, it's not even funny. The woke liberal mantra is always that we conservatives oppose their ideas because we are afraid. We have fear. If we were not afraid of everything, then we would support what the woke liberal is trying to do. He says fear of immigrants, of queer people, of ideas you've never encountered. I mean, really, it's almost offensive. Conservatives are not afraid of immigrants. We just want them to come into this country legally. Legally. We are not afraid of queer people. We just don't want to be made to celebrate their lifestyle like it's not a sin. We are not afraid of ideas at all, either ones that we've encountered or ones that we haven't. Fear has nothing to do with our opposition. Our opposition is rooted in logic and a biblical foundation. We can look at the woke liberal agenda and see failure at every turn. Common sense is thrown out the window under liberalism. But most conservatives have a foundation that is biblically based. Woke liberalism is based in feelings. Conservatism is based in logic. And he says, and every time you get mad at them, he puts them in quotes, you're doing exactly what they want. And his point here is that we as conservatives should never get mad at woke liberals, because if we do, we are playing right into the hand of those nasty, powerful people. And he says, and it's easier to throw hate at those who you encounter in your community than billionaires you've never met. Okay. And here is where he introduces another definition of who the they are. Because he says right here in number 5, woke, in quotes, isn't ruining your life. Billionaires are. That's his point, his 5th point here. So evidently, the woke liberal is not ruining my life. Anyone with at least $1 billion in net worth is. How hypocritical is this? He just got done saying that it's the billionaires that have started a culture war. And then he says that it's the billionaires that are ruining my life. Do you think that he's talking about Bill and Melinda Gates, possibly, who give millions to woke liberal causes? No, I don't think so either. He says they're stripping your benefits, privatizing healthcare, making record profits while you fight each other online about bathrooms. Billionaires are stripping my benefits? Really? Again, a job transaction is one person agreeing to give financial compensation to someone else for their skill and labor. If one side does not find this arrangement worth continuing, then go part ways. Privatizing healthcare would be the best thing for the healthcare industry. It was Obamacare that injected a great deal of government intervention into healthcare. And we are so much worse off because of it. You also see the demonization of profits here. It's not okay on one hand that a business owner or a retirement fund make a profit when using their business skills, but it is okay for a person flipping burgers at McDonald's to make $20 an hour to get your order wrong. And he says, and while you're arguing about flags or books, they're buying your neighborhood. Well, the only people I see trying to get everyone to fly a pride flag and ban an old classic book are woke liberal drag queens. And number 6, you're not conservative anymore. You're reactive. You've been trained to respond to every issue with rage, sarcasm, or mockery. Well, even if this is true, sarcasm's biblical. Yeah. God called to Adam and Eve in the garden after they sinned. Adam, Eve, where are you? Like he didn't know where they were. He's God. Sarcasm's biblical. He says, ask yourself, when was the last time you felt hopeful about a policy, a leader, or the future? I would say that I have felt hopeful about all of those things right about November 5th of last year. I mean, don't you? He says, because they don't want you hopeful. They want you mad. Again, it's not the conservative that is mad with Trump derangement syndrome. That's not who I see being mad. I see Trump living in the head of many liberals. Number 7, the truth is you've been lied to, not by your neighbors, not by the woke mob, but by the people who need your vote, your loyalty, and your outrage to stay rich and powerful while your life stays hard. Okay. No. No, the truth is that the woke liberal is the one being lied to. He admits that it's the liberal that listens to the news and the propaganda media. It's the same media that wants to keep them mad so they will continue to watch them. They get so mad that they turn violent some of the time. This is where we get the violent left from. And number 8, you deserve better. You deserve health care. Okay, let's stop. You don't deserve health care. There is nowhere in the Constitution or the Bible that says that we deserve health care. It's nice in our day and age that anybody has access to it, but we don't deserve it. He says you deserve a living wage. Well, this one is not biblical either. In fact, go look up Proverbs 10:4. It states, lazy hands make for poverty, but diligent hands bring wealth. That to me doesn't mean that we deserve a living wage. He says you deserve to retire without fear. Well, not only do you not deserve to retire without fear, you don't have the right to retirement. I mean, I hate to break it to you, but there is nothing in the Constitution or the Bible that says that we should all retire. If you have planned financially for it, and then that's great. But it's not a right. It's not something you deserve, even if you have done nothing toward it. All right, you deserve truth, not distraction, he says. This is one of the reasons we bring you FOMO Friday, in fact, on this very podcast. I encourage you to tune in Friday. But to get that, you have to stop fighting the people who aren't your enemy. Well, woke liberals are not our enemy. But anti-God woke liberal ideology is contrary to the truth. He says, they told you the culture war was about values. It's not. It's about control. Again, I say, more ideological warfare here, when in actuality it is about values, biblical values versus non-biblical values. All right, let's finish this up. He says, the more distracted you are, the less you'll notice who's robbing you. And right now, you're willing to hand them the keys to your poverty and cheer any libertards while you do it. So I really thought that this was a good example of just how a woke liberal thinks. It's interesting how many assumptions that he makes about being superior to conservatives and how little responsibility he takes on for his own ideology. It really is a classic woke liberal move to try to blame someone else instead of taking on the realities of their own thinking. And I would love to hear what you think about it. I mean, I know I speak to a lot of conservatives here on the podcast, but I also know that there are liberals that listen. I would love to hear what you think of this piece. And of course, you can always do that at uncommonsensepodcast.com. We're also on YouTube, and thank you for listening. This podcast is a production of Morganite Communications.